Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video on the channel, guys. So what I have for you guys today is another episode of the Championship Roundup, guys. So what we are going to be doing in this video, guys, we're going to be going over all the action that took place on Easter Monday, guys. That'll be yesterday when you guys will be watching this video, and honestly we have a lot to talk over in this video. I mean, off the back of that weekend, we've seen a team that's now been promoted to the Premier League in Brighton, which we'll get to in a minute, and as well as that we've also got a managerial sacking in Gianfranco Zola, which we'll also get to very shortly. So what I'd love to know from you guys is basically leave a comment in the comments down below as to what you thought of your team's performance on Easter Monday. I'll be very interested to know. As well as that, what do you think was the goal of Monday, and what do you think was the result as well? I'll be very interested to know. I'll be revealing what I thought they were nearer to the end of the video, but honestly we have a lot to talk over in this video. So just before we do get into any of the games, guys, I will include your comments on screen now. So if any of you guys did successfully manage to predict any of the scorelines going on this weekend, I will include your comment on screen now. So fair play to everyone who did correctly guess a scoreline this week. This weekend for the games taking place on Monday, I actually managed to get 3 of my score predictions correct, so that's not too bad going from me. I managed to get the Blackburn against Bristol City game, the Brighton against Wigan game, as well as that the QPR against Sheffield Wednesday game, all predicted correct, so 3 out of 12, that's not too bad going from me. So the first game that we have to talk over, guys, was the early kickoff on Monday, taking place between Fulham and Aston Villa, and we actually saw the goal scoring opened by Ryan Sessegnon, the 16-year-old fullback, and honestly this guy is just an absolute whiz kid in the Championship this year, and you can see the potential is just oozing out of this guy. I think it's like his 5th or 6th goal this season or something like that, so for a 16-year-old fullback to be doing that in the Championship is just absolutely ridiculous. I think all the Fulham fans can clearly see his potential, but in this game, of course, Aston Villa definitely weren't aided by the red card to Jonathan Kodjia in the 22nd minute. He sort of kicked out at Ryan Fredericks after he'd sort of lunged in at Kodjia after he'd fallen over. It was a really bizarre incident. Kodjia, there was no need to do it, and I've seen quite a few Aston Villa fans who disagreed with the red card. It's a bit of a grey area really in football in my opinion, but really he shouldn't have he shouldn't have done it really. It was reckless and it was stupid from Kodjia, and he could potentially be suspended for the rest of the season by getting a straight red card, of course, with only 3 games left. But in the end, you know, that played into Fulham's hand. They managed to get the other 2 goals and it was a 3-1 victory in the end. Fulham were probably the better side, and this game now has lifted them into the top 6. And then for our next game, guys, we had 2 sides coming up against each other who, let's face it, these two don't have anything to play for from now until the end of the season, and I think a bit of that was on show in this game here today. So we had Barnsley who came up against Brentford, and in the end this one managed to finish as a 1-1 draw. Of course, quite recently really we've been seeing Barnsley pick up a lot of draws in this one, but I've got to say in the first half especially I did think that Barnsley, probably for the majority of the match actually, were the better side in this game. I mean, Brentford were coming off the back of that fantastic victory they got last time out to Derby County, but to my surprise a little bit, they did make quite a few changes for this game. Maybe a bit of that was down to fatigue and the fact that they don't have anything to play for. I mean, I know they put their number 2 goalkeeper in net as well. They made a couple of other changes into midfield and defence as well. So I think quite a that was on show. A bit of inexperience in this Brentford side was on show, but of course they managed to get back into the game. Barnsley a little bit wasteful with some of their opportunities, but it did end 1-1 in the end. And then, guys, for a massive talking point to go over from Monday, guys, we had Birmingham City 0, Burton Albion 2. And first of all, in terms of how this game went, Birmingham have just been so below par ever since Zola did come into the job. Really, it has just been ridiculous. I think he managed to get 2 victories in 24 matches, and considering he was taking over a side who were 7th in the league is just absolutely ludicrous that he's, you know, been allowed to do this really. But after this game and after Burton did get the 2-0 victory, this now leaves Birmingham just 3 points off the relegation zone, and all of that basically accumulated Birmingham's awful form under Zola, and he has handed in his resignation, which it caught me off guard a little bit. You know, I thought that he'd be wanting to stick it out with Birmingham. Birmingham were going to stick it out with him really, because after this awful run of form they went under, I thought they'd completely back him in the summer transfer window. I mean, to sack Gary Rowett and get this guy in, and then for this guy to leave before the season's finished and to leave the club 3 points away from relegation is just absolutely ridiculous, and it has just been an absolute nightmare of a season for Birmingham. So Birmingham fans, do you think that you will survive this season? Let me know down below, because it is incredibly tight at the bottom of the table. But in terms of the 3 points for Burton, that is going to do them the absolute world of good. I'd say that probably one more victory from Burton's next 3 games will ensure survival for them. Of course, it won't do that mathematically, but I don't think Blackburn are going to win all the games they have left. So in terms of the relegation picture, a massive 3 points for Burton. And then talking over what could be a massive point for Blackburn Rovers, we had the game which finished level at Ewood Park between Blackburn and Bristol City. This one finished as a 1-1 draw in the end. And Bristol City's, you know, attacking flair going forward was on show in this match. The goal that Tammy Abraham managed to score in the 14th minute, we could see that it was a nice passing move which led to the goal. And I think it was pretty clear to see, you know, from that debate video I did not too long ago, we all basically said that if Bristol City are going to survive this season, pretty much I'd say that like 70% of that is going to be attributed to Tammy Abraham. And he was the guy who managed to get back on the score sheet again. And quite similar to Burton Albion, really. I know Bristol City and Burton Albion are currently on the same amount of points. I think one more victory should do it for them two sides. So if Bristol City are able to get a victory in that next game for them, I think that should ensure survival for them. And in terms of a point for Blackburn Rovers, I mean, they had 2 massive games at the weekend. Coming up against Nottingham Forest and Bristol City, it was crucial really that they didn't lose any of those games, because had Blackburn lost any of those games, I'd say that that probably would have been lights out for them in terms of the rest of the season. But this doesn't leave them in a bad position. Of course, they are still in the relegation zone, but getting a point against Bristol City has still given them every chance of survival. So do you guys think that Blackburn will survive? Let me know down below. And now guys, to the pretty much the feel-good story of the season, we have Brighton and Hove Albion 2, Wigan Athletic 1, and of course with the Huddersfield result going their way as well, this has ensured promotion to the Premier League for Brighton. So of course, first of all, I have to say congratulations to all the Brighton fans watching this video. It has just been an absolutely phenomenal season for you guys. I think a lot of people were expecting Brighton to be up at the top of the table, but I don't really think a lot of people at the start of the season especially were putting Brighton ahead of Newcastle really. So for it to be looking that way, and Brighton really should from this position go on now to win the championship, it has just been absolutely phenomenal. Some of the players that Brighton have had this season, players like Anthony Knockaert, Glenn Murray, players in their defence, Stockdale in net, Dunk at the back, they have just been absolutely sublime. And for Chris Houston and everyone like that to all accumulate into promotion with 3 games to go still is an absolutely incredible achievement. So fair play to Brighton. And in this game, Brighton were the better team. You know, I don't think anyone can really dispute that. Wigan came to Brighton, I think, in the hope that they might be able to grind out a point, but that wasn't the case in the end, with Glenn Murray and Solly March managing to get the goals for Brighton. The one thing I was a bit surprised about really from Wigan's perspective was that Nick Powell was actually left on the bench for this game. After scoring a hat-trick in his previous one, I'd have thought that he'd be the first name on the team sheet, but maybe that's due to fatigue in the short turnaround of games and stuff like that. But of course, he did come off the bench and have an impact. He actually scored for Wigan, I think, with their only shot on target in this one. So a bit of a disappointing one for Wigan, and it looks like they're going down, but Brighton are on the way up for sure. And then for our next fixture, guys, we had Cardiff City, who came up against Nottingham Forest, and in the end, Cardiff managed to leave with the 1-0 victory. Now, this 1-0 victory for Cardiff really doesn't leave Nottingham Forest in the best position in the Championship. The victory for Cardiff now only leaves Forest 1 point away from relegation, and with 3 games to go, it is going to be a very nervy time for them indeed. I mean, I did think they were slightly unfortunate really with this result. I mean, did they do enough to warrant a point in this game? Maybe on another day they probably would have got the point. I mean, the goal from Aaron Gunnarsson was an absolute belter of a goal. It was literally, the goalkeeper had no chance of stopping it. It was from outside the box. He just absolutely rocketed it into the back of there, and it was a phenomenal finish in the end for him. And of course, this season, you know, with Cardiff, it has been their home form, especially under Neil Warnock, which has been so sustainable, and the reason they are now 13th in the Championship, because they have been an incredibly hard side to beat at home. So fair play to Cardiff. It's been not a bad season for them. But Forest, are Forest going to go down? Let me know down below. It is just ridiculously close at the bottom. And then for a result which I think pretty much will be a lot of people's results of the month, Monday Easter fixtures we had, guys. We had Ipswich Town 3, Newcastle United 1. It was Sir Bobby Robson Day at Ipswich Town for this one, and they managed to mark the occasion with, of course, the 3-1 victory. And was it a deserved victory? It was, you know, they were the better side in this game. And what we've not really seen much from Ipswich this season, you know, has been their flair going forward, then a lot of chances being created, and Ipswich actually could have had more than 3 goals in this game. They actually had a lot of opportunities, you know. In the first half, they had a lot of chances, and I thought the star men for this one were Freddie Sears had an absolute blinder in this one. Newcastle just couldn't seem to cope with him. He, of course, managed to open the scoring for Ipswich in this one. McGoldrick managed to get the second goal, which was set up by Freddie Sears as well, and Newcastle managed to get back into the game with Murphy scoring against his former club, but Ipswich managed to wrap it up in the last minute with the 3-1 victory. And overall, it was a fantastic result. And I mean, Newcastle, what is going on with them, really? I mean, I think a lot of people at one point in the season thought Newcastle were just going to absolutely run away with the season, but that has, of course, not happened. They are still in second, and they should still go up. It would still take a pretty major slip-up for them not to go up, especially with Huddersfield not winning this weekend. That would have really put the pressure on Newcastle, but they've sort of been let off the hook this weekend, Newcastle, with Huddersfield dropping points as well, but definitely room for improvement for them. And then for a side who has definitely got room for improvement, we had Leeds United, who came up against Wolves, and in the end, Wolves managed to grab the 1-0 victory against all odds, really. I mean, looking over Wolves' form recently after their last probably 3 or 4 performances, it really wasn't looking like a good showing for Wolves. You know, they thought that they'd managed to guarantee safety for the season, and after they'd done that, they were sort of letting their season float out, really. Not much flair or desire going into any of their games recently, and they just managed to turn it around in this one for some reason. I don't know how this happened, because of course Leeds managed to get that very valuable point last time out against Newcastle United with Chris Wood getting the last minute leveller in that one, but for this one Leeds just look so far off the pace, and this game now has actually left Leeds in 7th in the Championship, so they're of course in danger now of not making the playoffs, which would be absolutely mental, really, considering they've been sat in the top 6 for pretty much the majority of the season. For them to miss out on it now would be a major upset. But fair play to all the other clubs in the Championship now who really are putting the pressure onto Leeds, because I mean, are Leeds starting to show the cracks? Let me know down below, Leeds fans, do you still believe that you will make the playoffs come the end of the season? Because of course Leeds currently are level on points with Fulham, so come the end of the season it is just going to be ridiculously close at the top of the table. But in terms of how this game went, I thought Wolves were the better side. You know, in the first half especially, they could have actually had more than 1 goal. It was Dicko who got the only goal of the match. Fair play to Wolves. And then for the next game, guys, we had Preston North End, who came up against Norwich City, and oh my god, I'll make this one quick, guys, because it was not pretty showing from my club Preston North End at all in this game. It was a major disappointment, really. I mean, we're coming off the back of 2 successive away defeats, which I suppose were sort of to be expected with Preston's away record this season, but we're coming into this one, it was Preston who have got one of the best home records in the Championship in 2017, coming up against Norwich City, who have one of the worst away records in 2017, so this should have been a bound thing, really. It should have been the Preston victory, but that just wasn't the case in this one. Norwich they just absolutely outclassed Preston in this one. In the first half especially, Preston didn't know what hit them. Players like Murphy and Pritchard and even Naismith at times were running absolute riot against Preston, and I think that Preston's absentees were quite clear in this match. We really were missing our captain Tom Clark and Ben Pearson as well, and to add to insult as well, Greg Cunningham was also forced off with a broken leg in the first half, which it just got worse and worse for Preston in this game, really. But what I absolutely loved about that was Greg Cunningham got a broken leg. Of course, at the time we didn't know it was a broken leg, and the guy gets back up and tries to run it off for like 2 minutes. That is just absolutely mental. So fair play to Cunningham. Of course, we hope the best, and we hope we'll see him in action fairly soon. But in terms of how this game went, Preston showed a bit of an improvement in the second half. Spur managed to get the goal back, but we were quite wasteful with chances in the second half as well, and Norwich deserved the victory. And then for a massive 3 points in the shape of the playoffs, guys, we had QPR, who came up against Sheffield Wednesday, and Sheffield Wednesday managed to grind out the 2-1 victory. So recently, you know, it has to be said, Sheffield Wednesday are in a nice run of form, and with only 3 games left now until the end of the season, you've got to say that Sheffield Wednesday are looking like maybe a side with momentum going into the playoffs. And I know I've said it quite a lot of times in these videos, but going into the playoffs with momentum cannot be underestimated. It's such an important thing, in my opinion, and Wednesday are showing that at the moment. They're showing that they can grind out a result, which I'd say earlier in the season Sheffield Wednesday earlier in the season, probably 2 or 3 months ago, wouldn't have won this match really, because QPR weren't bad in it really, but Sheffield Wednesday were just managed to able to show that clinical nature in front of goal, and that's what you need to be promoted. And then for the second to last fixture, guys, we had Reading, who came up against Rotherham, and there was almost a shock result in this game, but in the end Reading did manage to get the job done with the 2-1 victory. So it wasn't a massive scoreline like I know a lot of people were predicting for this game, but in the end Reading managed to get the job done, and really that's all that really counts, I suppose. But Rotherham did cause a bit of a shock really for Reading in this one. In the first half, Reading really were looking off the pace, which was quite surprising really, but Rotherham managed to take the lead in the first half. Going into the second half, I know a lot of Reading fans weren't happy with that going into the second half, but they of course did manage to turn it around. Graben and Swift who got the goals. The Swift goal was actually very nice, came off the back of some nice intricate passing, and Swift managed to finish off the job. But this result now actually pumps Reading up to 3rd in the Championship. Of course, Huddersfield do still have a game in hand over them, but for Reading to be 3rd in the Championship, I mean, who would have called that at the start of the season? It has been a fantastic year for them. And then for our last fixture to talk over, guys, we had Derby County, who came up against Huddersfield Town, and in the end this one managed to finish as a 1-1 draw. Guys, have Huddersfield bottled automatic promotion here? Oh, I don't know really, because they had a massive opportunity to go ahead and put the pressure on Newcastle. With them losing 3-1 to Ipswich earlier on, this was a huge opportunity for Huddersfield to go ahead and get all 3 points, and it got off to the perfect start to them as well. They actually were leading in this match after only 9 minutes, but after they did get the opening goal, they really were quite a little bit disappointed, I thought, in this game. I honestly did think that Derby were the better side. They definitely had the better chances in this game. Derby were actually quite unfortunate in the first half not to get the equaliser back straight away, but of course it did take them until the 88th minute to get back into this game, but they managed to do it in the end. So it is looking more likely now than ever that it will be the playoffs this season for Huddersfield. Of course, Newcastle did give Huddersfield that glamour of hope of being able to catch them with dropping points against Ipswich. Of course, they could still do it, but they have made it a lot more difficult for themselves by not winning this game, especially as Derby were coming off the back of that 4-0 hammering they got last time out against Brentford. A little bit of a disappointing one for them, but Gary Rowett at home with Derby this season, they've looked a good side. So guys, there were all the matches that took place this weekend in the Championship on Easter Monday, guys. So what I'd love to know from you guys is, what did you make of your team's performance? Let me know down below. But now guys, in terms of my goal of the weekend, this weekend I'm going to go ahead and give it to Jack Grealish of Aston Villa. Of course, they didn't get the result they were after this weekend, but that Grealish goal was an absolute plum of a finish. He managed to cut inside, get it onto his strong foot, and then bend it into the top corner. The keeper had no chance, and it was a great finish in the end. Of course, there are quite a few contenders for that one. I could have given it to Gunnarsson for Cardiff. He scored an absolute worldie. Norwich scored a decent goal against Preston as well, but my goal of the weekend is going to be Jack Grealish. And then my result of the weekend, it is going to go to Ipswich Town for managing to get that 3-1 victory over Newcastle. My result of the weekend is going to be Ipswich 3, Newcastle 1. So like I said, guys, that will now wrap it up for this video. So thank you so much for watching. So if you have enjoyed, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, make sure you do subscribe for regular Championship content. We are now closing in on 4,000 subscribers, which is absolutely mental, guys. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of all the topics in the comments down below. Congratulations to Brighton for getting promotion to the Premier League. And Birmingham fans, are you feeling pretty happy now ZOLA's gone? Let me know down below. But apart from that, guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.